I'd like to introduce one of our largest contributors and quite a prolific writer. He was also in the zine culture. He also wrote our Afterword, which you must read, a 12-step program for doing your own cacophony. And he's going to read for us. His name is Stuart Mangrum. Welcome, Stuart.
Okay, I'm just going to read a little short piece here from one of many, many events that took place on the Golden Gate Bridge. You guys have heard of that? Yeah. Famous for, among other things, for being a suicide magnet. And the papers used to report the numbers whenever somebody would jump to their death from the Golden Gate Bridge. Be like, he was number 991, he was number 992. And then they ran a piece in the paper that said the CHP has decided they're no longer going to announce the number for fear that there would be a race to be number 1,000. So you can probably guess the rest, but here it is. It's called Race of Doom, and this is from my zine, Twisted Times. July 9th, 1995, San Francisco, California. What started as an oddball prank took a tragic turn today as one-time counterculture scenester and San Francisco Cacophony Society member Timothy Liddy apparently plunged to his death in the icy waters of the Golden Gate. Though officials expressed concern that the dive may have been accidental or even a result of foul play, others were quick to proclaim Liddy the 1,000th person to commit suicide by jumping from the historic span. The trouble started when 16 members of the Cacophony Society, a longtime fixture on the local underground scene, chose the day of the San Francisco Marathon to dress up in jogging togs, strap on the number 1,000, and race to the center of the bridge in a simulated mass suicide. An article in the Examiner the previous day had set the official death toll at 998 and expressed law enforcement concerns that people would be, quote, lining up to be number 1,000. The Cacophonists responded with their ill-fated Race of Doom, with official-looking race placards for all the runners. It was just a joke, explained Cacophony spokesman Lloyd Void. We're just a bunch of harmless kids trying to have fun. Liddy, on the other hand, was no kid, and according to some sources, far from harmless. After nearly achieving notoriety in the 60s as the unindicted 8th co-conspirator in the Chicago 7 case, the 45-year-old Liddy went underground in 1976 under a cloud of drug, weapons, and money laundering charges. Authorities were guarded when asked about Liddy's background. One source, who asked not to be identified, expressed doubt that the jumper could have been Liddy at all, since Liddy was known by the CIA to be in Cuba with longtime acquaintance and golfing companion Robert Vesco. Noting that no body had been recovered from the bay, he implied that the whole affair was nothing more than a crude attempt at disinformation, possibly by the Mossad. Eyewitnesses on the bridge, however, insist that a man matching Liddy's description jumped, or was pushed, or accidentally fell from the railing at mid-span at about 6:25 p.m. Members of the Cacophony Society were apparently involved in a spirited shoving match, each trying to climb up the rail ahead of the other, when Liddy allegedly went over the side. Liddy, whose autobiography, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, has been tied up in litigation since 1992, leaves no known survivors. His publishers, Duke Press, returned requests for comment to their accounts receivable department. Well, okay, this is another one. This is from a phone trip that we took to Tultepec, Mexico, famous for its fireworks industry and gigantic fireworks shows. It's kind of a long piece. I'm going to pick it up somewhere in the middle. Actually, we are, at this point in the story, we are being feasted as local dignitaries. We were somehow mistaken for visiting dignitaries. Being the only gringos in town, we were sort of abducted to the mayor's mansion and treated to a feast. So I'll start at the feast. I'm invited to sample the local pulque, a Sour Mash cactus beer, tequila's poor relative. It tastes no worse than some Belgian ales I've had, but not much better. I can say now that I've had it, and I cannot say that I will rush out to have it again. Meanwhile, the food keeps coming. The meat is served in the traditional manner, hacked into cubes that give each diner a brief survey of the entire goat. Some bone, some meat, a little fat, hardly any fur at all. It is delicious. The tequila drinks keep coming. Senor Antonio's drunken nephew, whose name is Felipe, graciously allows Melmoth to best him in arm wrestling, then corners me with a heartfelt, slurring monologue on, I think, NAFTA and our partnership across the border. USA says, gripping my shoulder tightly for balance and gesturing with his mug. Mexico! Fireworks! Bicycles! He points to an old two-wheeler with a sudden look of fierce passion. Mexico, he says intensely. Mexico! I have no idea what he means. His words seem to carry a strong note of national pride. Is he talking about his people's admirable ability to make do with less? To enjoy life at a more leisurely pace? I want to understand him, but he's drunk. And I'm well on my way. My Spanish is a crude barbarian pidgin suited only to the necessities of life, like obtaining cocktails and clean towels. His English is worse. We are nodding at each other with earnest intensity, trying like hell to communicate, but it just isn't happening. I hope the rest of NAFTA isn't this fucked up. The fireworks begin a half hour after sunset. Fuses are lit and suddenly there's chaos. As each tower's elaborate displays begin to burn, the crowd surges forward, then promptly retreats under a rain of fire. The crews of the adjoining towers climb their structures and shake for all they're worth, trying to slough off the cinders and avoid any premature detonations. There's an enormous amount of burning debris. I scramble around with my camera trying to calculate manual exposures. Two young boys, 10 or 11, wordlessly adopt me like some stray dog and act as bodyguards, parting the crowd in front of me so I can shoot, shielding me from the torrent of sparks, and occasionally dragging me backwards when, too intent on framing a shot, I let the fire get too close. I feel like a combat photographer. I pick up a few new cinder burns in the old flight jacket, but I'm otherwise protected from harm. These towers are unlike anything I've ever seen. For one, they're enormous, 50 to 65 feet high, built entirely from sticks of 1-inch lath, secured with newspaper twine, guyed by hemp and nylon ropes to cars, trucks, trees, nearby buildings. And yes, people climb them, sometimes two at a time, all the way to the top. After the preliminary pinwheels have spun, each tower displays a unique animated image in time-phased, multicolored charges. A butterfly flaps its flaming wings. San Juan de Dios dispenses blessings. A dog morphs into a goat and then back again. Each colored charge ends its burn with a dose of pure phosphorus white that burns the design into the back of your eyeballs. And then the UFOs lift off. Huge horizontal pinwheels, 6 or 10 feet across, that spin up enough rocket power to soar 200 or 300 feet straight up. Then disperse a load of conventional skyrockets and fall, still flaming, somewhere over the flat-roofed horizon. No one seems to know or care exactly where they land. The drinking is getting serious. Paisley and I fall in with two young men sharing a bottle of Presidente Grande and 2-liter Pepsi. Their uncle, a bull-chested man of 50 with salt and pepper hair, gets me into another one of these heartfelt, surreal conversations. He beats his chest with his fist, shakes my hand 100 times, and offers to kick the entire crowd's ass if anyone gives me trouble. Mi casa es su casa, his nephew says sincerely. Uncle nods profoundly. To their credit, they look only slightly dazed when I tell them there are 13 of us, and we'll take up a lot of floor space. They ask where I'm staying, and when they hear the answer, they roll their eyes heavenward as if scanning the skies for lightning. Our hotel, apparently, does not have a good reputation. A businessman's love nest. Only when I insist that we're leaving in the early morning for Guanajuato do they seem to relax. I am made to swear oaths I do not fully understand, the gist of which seems to be that if and when I do return, I and all of my ancestors and descendants will move in for the full duration of our stay, drink until we can't see, and possibly, I'm not entirely sure about this last part, arrange for the intermarriage of certain grandchildren, who will then take over the combined family businesses and support us in our old age while we blow up fireworks and forget where we left our flasks. The old man is a pyrotechnico, and apparently a good one, from the way his nephews keep nodding and saying, muy respecto, whenever he brings it up. Or maybe he whips them at night and they're terrified, I don't know. He keeps showing me the back of his left hand, lightly brushing it with the fingers of his right as he talks about the fireworks trade. Much later, it dawns on me that he's showing me his fingers. All 10 of them, still attached. Many in the crowd are not so lucky. Only when it occurs to me to look do I begin to notice the stumps, the gloves, the hands in pockets. Theirs is a good trade, but unforgiving. Los pirotecnicos de Tultepec, I say, drunk enough now to risk a complete sentence, es supremo del mundo. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but I mean it, and they seem to enjoy hearing it. I say it again many times, and I do mean it. I mean, if this isn't the best in the world, what is? By the time the fireworks end, the crowd is getting extremely drunk. Within 15 minutes, most of the families have left, and it's just men in the square. The testosterone-challenged members of our group have been attracting more than their share of attention all night, but now the advances intensify. Paisley, her blonde coif covered by a hooded sweatshirt, has traveled a lot in Mexico. She avoids eye contact, but still picks up a few sniggers from men who spot her water bottle, which bears the logo of our apparently infamous hotel. The other women are not so street smart. I perform a few missions of rescue, playing the husband and saving my fellow travelers from overzealous Romeos. Julia, her long blonde hair bare to the world, gets her ass grabbed by a suitor. Another local man steps up and punches the offender to his knees. I think this is about the time we want to be leaving, Melmoth observes. I've been to things like this before, and they can get ugly when the entertainment ends. Since he quit drinking, he's become uncommonly prudent. Also a convenient designated driver, though only of last resort. There's a very good reason Melmoth is not allowed to operate motor vehicles in California anymore, and why he's on the shit list of every car rental company on the West Coast. I once saw him ram a rental car into an old console television over and over until they got the drive wheels up off the ground and spinning. But I figure under the circumstances, he'll still probably do better than me. After all, he's sober. He's the only one who's sober. He grins. I hand him the keys. If we get in an accident, he says, trade seats.